I'm Nicky Tullett. I'm 54 and I live in Colic now, although I'm originally from Sussex. I moved here in 2001 when I got engaged. I had to write poems at school and discovered in my second boarding school, aged about 14, I wasn't bad at it. I got an 8 on 10 for a poem about my brother, which is still in my folder actually. And I wrote in beautiful calligraphy and as on his wall in his study at his place. And then I guess I had a diary then and started to sort of write emotionally. For me, initially, poetry was written at bad times and sad times. I think it was a release. But my journey to read performance poetry is a bit different. I didn't read my poetry in public till 2019. So I was turning 50. It was part of my challenge about having a 0 birthday and coming through a divorce. I had been taking other poetry to a group that met in the caves under the Malt Cross. And it was wonderful. It was cheap as chips and like English literature A level. You took your favourite poem and then you chatted about it over a pint. And a wonderful poet from Derby, Darren Carey, who I'm still in touch with, I'd admired his poncho on the way down, and we had established that I'd been to Peru, and that when we got chatting. And after I'd read my couple of poems, one of which was my favourite from Wendy Cape, he sidled up to me and he said, "Nicky, I bet you write, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah, Darren, I do." And he said, "Would you read one for us?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know about that." And he said, "Go on." Anyway, it was probably 9-10 months later I did. In 2019's Nottingham Poetry Festival, he had brought a show over in the Running Horse pub up the Derby Road, and he said, "You will speak, won't you, Nicky?" And I said, yeah, as I grasped my pint. And he put me on first, Rebecca. And I've never looked back, really. Somebody in the loo said, "Wow, you don't muck about, do you? I can see into your soul." And I was just like, yes, that's exactly what I wanted. And yeah, so I've been reading ever since.
It's so interesting because you seem like someone who's so confident, you've got great energy about you. What is it that held you back until age 50 to not perform?
I suppose partially I didn't know this was something people did. There's a poet called Martin Gray who introduced me to the amateur poetry circle here. He used to work with my ex-husband, and he got us along to the Jam Cafe one afternoon. We didn't have small children with us, and so I saw people doing this and thought, "Oh, that's kind of interesting." I went to see John Cooper Clarke, the punk poet, and actually liked his warm-up acts more. I'm a big fan of Luke Wright. I've seen almost every show he's done since. So yes, I think it's, you hear this about comics, don't you? They didn't know this was something you can do. And then you discover it and you think, oh. So yeah, Darren Carey encouraged me. And there was a particular moment, again, under the Malt Cross, where I saw a lass called Sophie Sparham. In fact, she reduced me to tears. She does a poem about homelessness. And I thought, I think I could do that, actually. I can modulate my voice. I've got a bit of an acting background, strictly amateur, but I enjoy it. And so I thought, oh, okay. So it all sort of came together. But the big worry, the big difference between reading your own stuff and somebody else's is the content for me is extremely personal. And I do have some poems about nature and, the beauty of autumn and things like this. But most of mine is relationships and angry Earth Mother stuff. And so you have to be okay with sharing that stuff with people, many of whom you don't know.
Absolutely.
So that's where the bravery comes. And I find if I'm particularly worrying about a gig, I might change the set that I do so that I'm not exposing quite so much.
Absolutely.
I've had quite long periods of insecure housing. I rented in houses of multiple occupancy. We used to call them flat shares, but they've got a proper term now. Until I was 29, I was a research assistant in London and Hull and Canterbury, so always on contracts, not earning much money. So yeah, very much quite often cash in hand to landlords who also lived there, those sorts of things. And then when I got more secure, it was in relationships. And so I've had 2 big relationships come to fairly abrupt halts. And yeah, then you're sofa surfing or sharing the same roof with somebody you've just given all the reasons one of you has for why you can't be with them anymore. And so that's pretty intolerable. I did have with one of my ex-partners, them sleeping on the sofa for 4 months with me in the bedroom while they found a flat. And so every evening you're just trying not to fight. So that's really tough. And so the most recent time I did that, I moved out quite quickly, but I wasn't working. So trying to find a flat that will take you, they want a reference. I've had a mortgage for the last 15 years. Where would I get that? My parents were both dead. Nobody could underwrite it. I had to go to them and say, please, can I put a bulk of money down, this big down payment, because I can get work probably. And I just need to get away from this relationship and have somewhere safe for me and my children. So that was really grim. And once I got it, it was unfurnished. So then you're negotiating with this person who, frankly, at the minute, you're quite close to hating, for every stick of furniture, every pot, every pan, all that kind of thing. And nobody helps you. You know, the moving stuff is really tough. And I got this place 8-9 months after. But again, nobody helps you. You've got no background of paying the bills on your own. So, yeah, even when there's a light at the end of the tunnel, the climbing the walls by your fingernails just doesn't stop. And I don't think many people have been through that. They kind of go, oh, you got that lovely shared ownership house. And you say, yeah. But, well, my brother-in-law came and he said, what a lovely chair. Did you buy it all together? And I said, no, David, I couldn't afford it. It was one chair. And then you saved for several more months before you could buy the sofa. No, it's all piecemeal, because that's how it works. Mm. And when you in the divorce, when you say I'm renting, we're both renting, people pull a face. How have you done so badly? It's like, you can't go from one house, mortgage to the hilt, to 2 paid-for houses. It's just, if you explain that to people, they get it. But on the whole, they just kind of assume you've slid down why did you move out of that really nice area? Well, we couldn't afford to stay.
That's right.
I have some brilliant friends. I don't have family in 150 miles. But I have a friend who I met through book group, and she and her husband and her daughter, who'd been my babysitter, helped me hire a van and move the furniture out of a combination of the rental, the sparsely furnished rental, and by that stage the family home was sold. So even he was leaving the family home. So we had this sort of round robin collecting stuff. Another set of friends, and her husband has MS, but he helped me screw my flat pack wardrobes back up together upstairs. So no, my friends really stepped up, They were fabulous. But yeah, we were exhausted. And also, with the power companies and stuff, you just have to get gobby and sort of say, I've just come out. No, yes, my name's changed. I'm divorced. I'm divorcing. No, can I prove that? No, I haven't paid the money for the decree absolute or the proof of that. Oh, well, I'm sorry that I'm not quite matching your things. What would you like me to do? And the other bit of advice it's a bit like giving Earth. You just park your dignity at the door and give them what they need, which